It can be so hard to not fall into a victim mentality when you've had a lot of things happen to you in your life. I recently had a huge breakthrough that I want to share with you. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about how to finally stop that victim mindset. Hello, welcome back to my podcast. My name is Arielle. This is Feeling My Feelings, where I finally feel my feelings after years of dissociating from them. So, a huge reason why I have been stuck in victimhood is because I have always felt guilty for my feelings. Hence, the name of my channel. Like, the reason why I've had to stop and look at my feelings is basically because I have to stop and look at my traumas. And I think if you're not able to nurture your deepest feelings about your traumas and your triggers, it's going to come out and be a reaction to the external world. You're going to start feeling like everything else is out there attacking you. You're going to be triggered by everybody else. Okay, so first off, let's stop shaming ourselves for the hard feelings that are causing us to feel like a victim. Now, I know that you don't feel like you're allowed to do that. None of us feel like we're allowed to say that, my feelings are valid, that someone has hurt me. Something likely has happened in your life where someone actually wronged you, where you were taught to fear everything. Whatever it was, it's obviously valid. And for me, at least, I always shamed myself whenever I had a hard feeling, because it was just kind of like, just get rid of it, move on, live your life so that you can survive. This is inefficient. Everyone's gonna think you're weak. And so for many years, I stuffed down these hard feelings, and I'm a huge empath. And I think as someone who is as much of an empath as I am, I stuffed this down a lot. And you know what happened? I got sick. Something happened the other day where I just couldn't take a lot of basically someone's sort of manipulative behavior. And I tried really hard to stuff it down, but it ended up just coming up. And I started screaming, crying, basically turning into my inner child. It was like I was super wounded and screaming, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't contain this for much longer. And I had a therapist tell me that it's really important for me to finally feel these hard feelings, because the reason why you are being a victim is because you never fully felt all of the core original feelings where you were victimized. And because of that, you project those feelings onto other people, even if they don't always deserve it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You manifest things in your life that reflect limiting beliefs that you may have about people, whether people are not safe, people are always egotistical and manipulative, people are always going to be out to get you, no one is reliable, whatever it is, you start settling for people and environments around you that are that familiar pattern, and that's all you see in the world. But if you head on address that all of these core wounds are happening because there is still this feeling that is repressed, that is left unfelt, like if you address that feeling, maybe you'll start to feel safer in the world. So that's what happened with me. I had a huge explosion, first of all, but my therapist said it was good that I was able to, in that moment, I had to write down everything that I was angry about. It was like a letter that I wouldn't send to everyone that I was mad at. And so I started off with everyone presently in my life, and I was like, you do this, so I feel unsafe. And then you make me feel unsafe about this and this and this. And eventually, as I was writing, I saw it turn from the things in my present and the people in my present to things that happened in my past. And then it got all the way back to a huge core childhood trauma. And I realized, oh, I'm still mad about this. And at first I felt stupid for still feeling mad about that. Like, I'm in my 30s. Why did I not get over that already? And so I was going through, but I also realized when I hit that core trauma, I had an aha moment, a breakthrough, and I was like, oh my God, I'm still originally getting triggered because of this original sin trauma that has happened in my life. And it's reflecting everything. And it was so repressed that I didn't realize that subconsciously I was still feeling super unsafe because of this one thing. And obviously other traumas happened that kind of built up on that like repressed feeling, but overall it just felt like, no, I need to really address this. It's really interesting. And so I tell my therapist this, and I also tell her like that I felt a lot of guilt for basically feeling like letting my whole victimhood come out at once. She's like, I'm really glad that you were able to find a space where you could be angry. And that sounds like it's exactly what you needed, because throughout your life, you had been invalidated. Your feelings had been invalidated. And it was so crazy that I needed someone to tell me that it was okay. It was okay for me to feel all of my inner child worst core trauma feelings. I wish I didn't need someone else to say that it's okay, but at this point in my healing journey, I still sort of do. But what I'm learning to do, so this is the solutions part, is self-validate. So that's validate my thoughts, my feelings, the reasons behind why I do things, and being able to finally give in to my wounded child, to let her breathe and feel and cry, allowed me the ability to finally nurture those feelings. Because otherwise, I'm constantly gaslighting myself. It's really important that we take our hardest feelings, stop ignoring them, and we finally nurture them. Because what has been remaining for me as someone who's felt like a victim for most of my life is this inability to console myself. That's literally what it is. You think you're looking for everybody else to take care of you, and if they're not, you're mad at them. So you're a victim to the rest of the world. Like, I'm a victim to the government, to my workplace, to all of these guys I'm trying to date. Like, I am a victim because everyone else isn't taking care of me, and I cannot survive. And so I have to do whatever I need to do because everyone is terrible. When in reality, you're looking for safety, and only you can create that safety within yourself. Not everyone can be safe. So the answer seems to be to feel your feelings, and more so to nurture yourself. You can even take that into, your inner child has traumas that need to be felt and nurtured, and then you have to end up reparenting yourself and learning how to nurture yourself. I know that that's a huge ask. That's a lot of work. But again, if you are open enough to overcoming victim mentality, you're already farther ahead than a lot of other people. Let go of the shame around the things you had to do in order to survive. All of us have had to do something drastic or whatever because, the world is shit. There are shitty people. You have to, like me, sometimes close down, and maybe you end up really quiet and you sacrifice your sense of self because you need to keep yourself safe. You have to, depending on who you are, you have to overprotect yourself. Do what you need to get all the information you need on somebody else. For example, I've resorted to seeing tarot readers and trying to analyze every single thing someone is doing. And it's that helps, but at the end of the day, I'm just spending so much time trying to figure out what is going on with somebody, and I'm not taking it back and fixing myself and my own sense of security. I mean, there are people who have gone much worse, who have become narcissistic, who have become manipulative. And, they resort to actually gaslighting, to actually being physically abusive, to stealing, to doing all these crazy things. We are all, honestly, trying to feel safe. And so most of us feel like victims in some ways. And I think whatever you didn't know how to do, if there are always moments where you don't know how to take care of yourself, and it's okay to be compassionate to yourself, for all those past moments. It is completely okay. You did what you had to do in order to survive. What we want to do, let's get you past just surviving. Let's live fully. Stop overindulging in just making life about other people. This has been hard for me because I've always been like, well, I'm empathic. I need to help people. Everyone around me needs help. That's just me going I'm not going to deal with my own problems. I need to fix everybody else. Admittedly, I'm very good and compassionate and helpful with other people. But at the end of the day, I can only give them so much advice up until they need to do stuff themselves. So I may think I don't have enough boundaries with people, but at the same time, I invited that. That was my choice. So as much as I can complain about other people not giving me what I need, I chose that. Also, it is very, very important that we draw distinctions around how we label people. There are some people who are absolute narcissists. There are actually horrible, manipulative assholes in the world. And then there's such a spectrum of people who want the best for you, but have learned very overprotective survival mechanisms. There's people who actually love you, like your family, but just aren't emotionally available because they don't feel safe enough to. And you have the right to feel unheard, unloved, uncared for, or whatever to your capacity. But just know that just labeling somebody right away isn't always going to help. Just having a stark judgment just because you need to protect yourself doesn't always help. Just watch for people's behavior, adjust, to your boundaries, and at the very least, it's most important that we stop engaging. If you find that you're annoyed at a person, maybe don't realize that, draw a boundary, and stop engaging so much. If you find that someone really bothers you, think about how much time and energy are you spending thinking about them. Even with me, I've had exes, other people, past friends in my life, where so much of my day, so much of my conversations with my other friends and my therapists are all devoted to how much that person annoys me. And then I look back and I'm like, yeah, that's so much of my energy, my time, my space. How much am I giving to these people who I've said over and over again annoy me? Why don't I just move on with my life? And so, again, it's hard to finally change that because we've learned for so long to live in survival, in self-protective mode. So of course we feel like victims. There are shit people in the world. And maybe we've only known that there are shit people in the world. But it is time. It is within your power to not let everybody else's energy infiltrate yours. You are in charge of your time and your space and your environment. You really do have power. Okay, the last thing, let's do daily ritual things that are just for us. You need more moments where you prove that you are in control of your safety. I know that you may already be doing those things, but let's look at them closer. For me, for example, I'm I'm gonna practice singing or writing all the time, which I love, but there's a certain point where my practice becomes thinking about how to make it perfect. It becomes, someone's gonna judge me if I do this thing when I sing, so I need to do this differently. A lot of my me time is still infiltrated by thoughts of how do other people think of me? How are they gonna judge me? And in that way, even when you're by yourself, you're still gonna feel like a victim to other people. How can you stop letting the thoughts of how people are gonna judge you mess with your everyday life and the things that you love to do? Again, this is practice. Like, especially if you've lived this way for a while, we've all needed to. It's going to take some practice, but thank God you're already acknowledging that this is a thing and that you want to work on it. So for me, I realized that, like, I've always hated when someone has told me you think too much, because I'm like, I know I think too much, but it's valid that I do because I've needed to survive. And while that's true, bitch, I think too much. So I need to primarily quiet my mind, be with myself before I go and do other things. So I have another video on regulating your nervous system, which is a lot of fun tips and tricks for some things that you can do for free to regulate your nervous system, calm your mind, and relax. So a lot of the things I do now are, like, I've hated when someone's told me to meditate, but what I take, like, my take on meditation is really just be present and don't think about anything. It doesn't mean you have to go sit in lotus pose or whatever. It doesn't mean that you have to go om, although that's cool. Like, but have a space where your mind doesn't do anything, but you focus on just being present and breathing. Because you need to know in those moments, it's just you and you. You need to be present with you. Nothing else is hurting you. Nothing else is affecting you. And you need to prove that that's real in your life. So you have to fucking meditate. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I look white as fuck right now. I am brown. I am at least 4 shades darker than this. Okay.